Welcome to my channel. Today I'll show you how to quickly and easily create a digital clock with a 7-segment display. All we need is a form with a couple of picture boxes and a Sprite sheet with the necessary numbers. That's all. So let's get straight into it. The first step is to create a new WinForms project. If you have any questions on this point, you are welcome to check my channel. There is an increasing amount of content here, including a beginner's tutorial on C# and WinForms. Once the project has been created, the next step is to take care of the design for the watch. Here you can later develop and customize freely. I will only show you the basics here, later extensions are always welcome. Feel free to share your ideas with me and the community in the comments. We will definitely need various picture boxes to display our time later on. I use a size from 150 to 150 for the picture box and set it to stretch image and their properties. So 2 for the hours, 2 for the minutes and 2 for the seconds. We also put picture boxes for the points in between. The background color and layout of the form can still be adjusted and some labels that show us what hours, minutes and second are, and that's it. It would also be possible to recreate the time setting of the flux compensator from Back to the Future using this technique. The possibilities are limited only by your imagination. Everything is possible in the world of programming. Except perhaps the time travel itself. Once the layout has been created, it is important to label the individual picture boxes. This makes it easier for us to assign the times later in the code. Make sure you give them simple and clear names. I always start with the element itself. So picture box is PB and then the name like hours_1 or minutes_2, etc. Now it's time to take care of a suitable sheet with all the required images for a 7-segment display. There is a very good one on this website. I have linked the website in the description. Pay attention to the license conditions for the data, I only use it for training purposes in this video. You can of course also use your own images. If you have a suitable one, simply download it and integrate it into the project. With a double click on the header of the form, we create the load event of the form into the code behind area of the form. Before we can finally start with the actual code, we first declare all the necessary variables. With the word region and the hash, we are also able to structure it clearly. So what do we need here? Basically just a timer to change the values in our clock. And separate image variables for our sheet and each needed part from it. You see here also how helpful the IntelliSense function in Visual Studio is for us by creating the variables. This makes it to my favorite IDE my work with C# or other languages. What is your favorite? Just let us know in the comments. In the Form 1 load event, which is the event that is loaded when the tool is started, we now create a separate method that we use to load all images and assign them to the particular variables. The main picture is our Sprite sheet with all needed data. This we can load from our project resources and assign it to our variable with the name 7-segment file. We can test it directly by use that is input to a picture box on our form. So you see the full sheet in one picture box. This we will use to create all pictures for the other variables like segment 0 to 9 and the dot picture. As you see in the sheet, we have 4 numbers in one row and 4 in one column. So to get the height and width of one segment we can divide it by 4. We can store this data in 2 new variables to get this data for all pictures. Because all of them have the same size. But how do we get the corresponding image parts from our sheet that we need? For this we need a new method. It should receive the entire sheet and a desired area as parameters and then return the corresponding part of the image. In principle it's quite simple. Let's test this with our 7-segment 0, which should of course be filled with the 0 from the sheet. We call the method crop image and pass our 7-segment file that we have loaded from the resources. We use a rectangle as the image area and pass 0 as the start position for x and y. So in principle, this means that our area starts in the top corner of the sheet. We use our new variable with the data of a segment as the height and width for the section. With this data we create our method through Visual Studio. We can already see that we get a method that fits well. Parameters are an image and a rectangle and the return value of the method is an image. Here we can still customize the names and write the necessary code. We create a bitmap with our image and use the built-in clone function to return a part of the image. If everything works, the 0 from the sheet should now be returned as an image. Let's test it by assigning it to a picture box. Looks good. This is exactly what we wanted to achieve. Great. We can transfer this way of working to all other segments. Let's copy the complete code row for segment 0 and change it accordingly. Of course, we change segment 0 to segment 1 in order to be able to fill this variable with the 1. If we look at the sprite sheet, we notice that the 1 is in the same row but in the next column. So we have to make a change in the start position of the rectangle where the x value is important in this case. We set it to 1 segment width. The y value can remain at 0 as it is the same row as the 0. So I think the principle is now clear. You are welcome to pause the video and try to fill in the other variables without my help. There are of course various other ways to achieve the result. If you prefer another way, please let me know in the comments. To get the dot, we have to trick and try a little. In principle, it is clear that it is hidden in the last part of the F. This leads us to go to the right 3 times and down 3 times. But in this field we only need the lower part. I am sure that there is a calculation for this, but I have to honestly have tried a bit to get these numbers. Let me know if you have a better solution for this. Otherwise you are welcome to use the values. Let's make a fast check if we get the dot. Yes, looks fine. Now we have everything together what we need to create the clock with all values from the sheet. We now need another method directly after the load segment data method to initialize and start the timer. We set the timer interval to 1 second. This is completely sufficient for our clock with seconds display. We also generate a tick event that is triggered every second after the timer is started. Here we will carry out the necessary assignments and steps to breathe life into our clock. Here we use a string to process the current time. To do this, we use datetime_now, which returns the current time, and convert it to a string according to our requirements. You are also welcome to choose a different time format. Here we use the 24-hour format, which is structured as you can see in the brackets of the toString method. So 2 digits each for hour, minute and second. So in principle perfect for our clock and the corresponding picture boxes. If we set a debug point at this point, we can stop the code here and you can see what the format looks like. We can now use this string to filter out the desired data from the string class using the substring method. So 2 separate strings for the hour of the time, 2 that show us the 2 digits of the minute of the time and another 2 for the second. In the desired structure in the toString of the datetime_now you can always see what you need. The counter for the substring method starts at 0, where the first value is the starting point and the second is the length of the substring. As we always need 1 digit, the second number is always 1. The first number is the starting point of the entire string, always changes of course. Now, of course, we have to assign the right pictures to our picture boxes so that our clock works. For the picture boxes that show us the dots, this is still easy as they do not change. But that doesn't really look like a clock yet. Or does it? We need a way to load the right image depending on the number of hours. That literally cries out for a new method, doesn't it? Let's start with the picture box hours one. This should display the first digit of the current hour. We call the method getSegment and pass it our string with the first digit of the current hour. Since we use it as an assignment to the picture box, the correct return value is also created. With this method it's quite easy to return the right picture depend on the time string using a simple switch statement. We create a switch statement for all numbers between 0 and 9 and assign the right picture to the image variable that we use as the return value for the method then, all. The best is that we can use that method slow for all other picture boxes. So to visualize the hours, minutes and also the seconds of our clock. Once we have assigned all the picture boxes accordingly via the new method, we can test the clock. I would say this is a really nice result. Of course, it may look a little different if you have chosen a different time format or other pictures. But I think this is a good basis to bring clocks or numbers into your projects that look a little different. Afterwards I will quickly show you a possible extension of this clock. By making a few changes to the current date time string and the layout, the clock can be quickly and easily extended by milliseconds. I hope this video was helpful and gave you some new ideas. I would be happy about comments on this video or new ideas and wishes regarding my content. And don't forget, the most important thing is to have fun and be open to new ideas.